Hello, I'm Leroy Garcia, and this is Leroy Gallery Podcast. Today in the studio we have artist Andrea Peterson, who is our Guadalupe Street feature artist this month. And welcome back. This is your second podcast.
Yes.
Welcome back to Santa Fe.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Andrea lives in Phoenix area, so it's nice for her to come and cool down over here. I bet it's kind of hot over there already, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
in the 90s.
Summer has begun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, we want to talk about Andrea's show, and let's start with this. The title of the show is Epoch Floral. Where did you come up with that?
Basically, just I knew that I was going to carry on with my floral theme that has been present, throughout my paintings for Blue Rain, with a little bit of a different spin, getting into the old Hollywood icon characters. And, I didn't want to go the route of focusing on the, icon or Hollywood or anything like that. So it just made sense. Also because all the paintings didn't end up being that, or
right.
All old Hollywood. I knew I would probably diverge from that, as I typically do when I do a series.
Well, just recently returning from Palm Springs, it has that flavor of those old icons. You walk on the street, it's like in Los Angeles, where you have stars on the sidewalks and stuff. So you have all this nostalgia going on.
Yeah.
What do you like about the American icons you have chosen as subject matter?
Well, it's all, it is from, like you said, an era of kind of nostalgia, and different people, no matter what ages, can tap into that. I think there's, even with the younger generation, there's this revisiting, old movie or classic films, music, classic rock. I know you're a fan of rock and roll, mm-hmm. You and Danelle.
Yep.
And even music being made today, a lot of it is, tied into or inspired by, a lot of musicians will talk about being inspired by, past musicians from the 60s and 70s. So I don't know, just that nostalgia. It's almost like that feel good part, and where everybody can connect to, or all viewers can kind of find a connection within an artwork in that way.
Yeah, I was reading through this blog, and you mentioned a school teacher. What was his name, Raj?
Raj. Yeah, he wouldn't let us call him Mr. Rogers. It's like, F that.
So what did he inspire you to look at? Was it the music?
Yeah, it was. So every art class throughout high school, it was, the backdrop was listening to his, classic rock station, all of the old, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and it's funny because even now I have a soundtrack, specifically, it's kind of all those old songs. I mean, even getting into, the Ramones and whatever, I put that on, and it's like, if I'm feeling a little ADHD or, not being able to focus as much in my studio for some reason, I'll put that album on, and it's like I said in the blog, like the Pavlov's dog, like
yes,
immediate pinhole like focus. So yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Here's another good question. What do you like most about American iconography or pop culture, Americana in general? I
think it's just the idea of the creativity within that. And again, so within past, I talk a lot about the whole before smartphones or, and internet, and, we're living in a very different time now where everything is connected, which can also be exciting in and of itself. But it was a different time before all of that, and a different type of creativity that had to be shared with others, whether it was actors or musicians or artists in person. You had these hubs in like New York, LA, Paris, where artists, all these creatives would get together. And there is something kind of, I think, special about that type of energy.
For sure. What inspires you? What inspires your painting styles? Because you have a few different ones.
Right.
Tell us about the prisms and all that. What's going on?
Yeah, the prisms, which has been something that I began back in, or that entered my paintings in around 2015, 2016. My grandfather did stained glass as a hobby. And I one day was just kind of looking at, and all of our family has pieces of his stained glass, looking at a piece of it and then moving things around in my apartment and, had a painting kind of half behind a piece of stained glass. And I thought, that would be an interesting way of seeing something, I guess, typical in an atypical way. It made it more exciting to me. And then as an artist, to push myself with color as well. Bringing this whole spectrum of colors, instead of just a field of green, that field might now have some orange or some pink or yellow in it.
It's pretty cool, the construct, because in the foreground you have the image of the human form, but in the back is like a kaleidoscope, right?
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah.
That seems to be a pretty cool construct. What inspired you to do Elvis?
Well, he is kind of a classic, that he could be old Hollywood. He did the movies back then as well as his singing. I hadn't painted a male in a while, as people were like, "Oh, you're painting a man."
That is true. That's true.
And then, of course, I was listening to some of his music, and and speaking of his music, I think, and there was the whole Elvis movie, but I had already started this painting before I saw that, and then, your own Leia with her
Leia is a big fan.
And fandom for Elvis.
You picked a younger Elvis in this painting.
I did. I liked that because to me that was, especially for artists or musicians, I feel like when they're at the precipice of their kind of coming out onto the big stage, or they have this flux of creativity, or this rush of it's happening, kind of the beginning before there's a full transformation that then is down the road,
before they really hit the apex of their career.
And they have a team,
At that point, in the beginning it's just raw, by themselves.
Right. Yeah.
So that's cool. Let's talk about Marilyn. Why'd you choose Marilyn?
Well,
she's iconic.
She is, and like other artists or fine artists, we can go from Basquiat to musicians, Janis Joplin, that die young or younger. I think she was 38 when she passed away. It is literally their life becomes a time capsule of that youth and creativity. And then, so I think that in and of itself is fascinating for people, again, across generations. And obviously she, led a very interesting, glamorous life. And then now, with other stuff coming out, and of course there's the conspiracy theories and all of that. But I just chose to focus on, having her, obviously with the crown or the rays coming out from behind her, and then the Sacred Heart, the Sagrado.
You gave her tattoos everywhere.
I did, yeah, but more symbolically, and not to step on the toes of anyone's religious beliefs, but from my time in Santa Fe and the Southwest in general, the Lady of Guadalupe, and that iconography always appealed to me. So, that painting is a little bit of a blend of both worlds.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I like both of those, Elvis and the Marilyn. And then we have this painting behind you titled Eden.
Yes.
And this is not necessarily an icon, right?
Right. Yeah.
It was more of a construct that you came up with?
Correct. Yeah. I had to, like I said, I knew once I start a series, I usually kind of diverge. And after Eden, I had going at the same time the Audrey Hepburn scene from Breakfast at Tiffany's. And so I just needed something a little just kind of out of the bubble that is, and this is pretty much, I would say, is the style of work that I've really enjoyed doing for Blue Rain in the past.
I really like the butterflies, especially, and the bird.
Yeah, and just kind of this feeling of this, spring and rebirth, but also power. Marilyn has the crown of rays around her head, and this figure has this large brimmed hat, which, yes, I know is very, could be very eye-rollingly hipster, but the way I positioned it is like a crown, and the way she's looking is kind of this, empowering kind of glance. And
it's cool. Well, this next one, I watched you paint on in Instagram, and Andrea, you can follow Andrea on Instagram. What's your handle on Instagram?
Artist Andrea.
Artist Andrea. So if you want to follow her, it's pretty cool. She'll show you the processes. Catnap. Tell us about this wonderful painting.
Oh, yeah. I didn't bother titling it anything related to Breakfast at Tiffany's because I figure most people will know from the eye mask and everything. I did take a scene, and that's the other thing with this painting and the Elvis in Maryland. Obviously, I'm looking at lots of old vintage photos and video footage. So I wanted to make it, unique, to a different experience for the viewer, and also kind of a very intimate experience for me while painting it. So hence adding these flowers that almost look like they're raining down or floating. And this one, the prisms really, I think, add to the effect of this dream-like, or when you're just waking up from a long nap. And the cat, or, people who have pets, like the pet that's pawing you to wake up, it's time to feed me.
Oh, yeah. That's my George every morning. I have a German Shepherd like that. What I liked is the eye mask. You painted eyes on the eye mask.
Yeah. So, and that's her eye mask in that movie.
Right.
And it's funny because I always kind of laughed at that, like, oh, who really needs to wear an eye mask? Well, way back in the day, when I had a small stint of living in my art studio in Brooklyn, illegally, that happened to be a photography darkroom, it was pitch black. So after I moved out of that situation, ever since then, I actually need an eye mask to make it pitch black
especially
for me
when
to
you move
sleep.
out west because of the light. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was another reason that painting this particular scene appealed to me. Was just that kind of personal chuckle it gives me.
That sounds like you had a lot of fun. And then this is kind of an unusual painting. Obviously, I like it because it has a what? A skull. Yes. Why did you paint this painting called Eternal Bloom?
So this was the final painting of the series. And I'll tell you, originally I always have so many ideas and sketches. I can never get to everything. Maybe you guys will get some paintings post show.
Wonderful.
But I had originally I had all these other ideas, cowboy imagery and whatnot, and then it just where did I see? I don't know. I was looking at cherry blossom. It was recently cherry blossom season. All over the world. I was hiking in Sedona and saw some. And then, on Instagram, seeing everybody post the cherry blossom pictures, and it's such a symbol of renewal and rebirth and our, temporal existence and all of those things. So I just had this idea to the skull, to me, and I love skull imagery and iconography and like the whole memento mori thing. So that's where it kind of came from, I think, was seeing all the cherry blossoms and wanting to combine it. And moss, it has mossy and flower patches on it. Like, I love moss. And a friend of mine coming from Seattle, the last time I went to visit for the show, her, we went hiking in those forests outside Seattle with all the like mossy trees. Like,
it's beautiful over there.
And it is. And obviously in the mushrooms and the cherry blossoms in the background, it's all this life after death. But, to me, it's a happy painting because all of our existence is temporary, but it shows that things still go on, and hopefully our impact here can be a good one for, what we leave behind.
Yeah, I sculpt skulls as well, and it's funny, I have them here in the office, and people come in and they're like, why do you have all this death around you? It's not about death. It's a reminder of your mortality, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you painted that. That makes me
really and
happy.
Doing what we can with our life, you know, like living. Yeah.
We only have limited time. So that's what a beautiful show. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. And I will be posting more videos of some of the time lapses, including the one on the skull too. Nice. And as well as the Breakfast at Tiffany's one up until the show. And I'm excited to be here for the show.
Wonderful. So this show opens up this Friday, and it runs from 5 to 7 p.m. So I'd like to encourage everybody to come on down and visit Andrea and feel her beautiful spirit. Thank you for coming in today, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to encourage our listeners to subscribe to our podcast on most of the platforms. You can also find us on our BlueRainGallery.com page under podcasts. I'd like to also encourage everybody to visit our online store of products by our artists by visiting BlueRainPrintShop.com by taking art into your everyday life. Thank you.